the 1990s, a new terror began creeping across the Midwest and Northeast of the United States. Dozens of young men, usually college students, athletes, or just well-liked guys, went out drinking with friends one night and never came home. Days or even weeks later, their bodies would turn up in nearby rivers or lakes. At first, police labeled them all tragic accidental drownings, but retired detectives soon noticed disturbing patterns. Many of the men were strong swimmers. It was just alcohol, and it was late at night. Some had been drinking heavily. They'd slipped and fallen into the water, perhaps after a fight or some other unknown altercation. But many of the bodies had unusual marks, cuts, or bruises on them, suggesting they'd been restrained. And eerily, nearby, police sometimes found graffiti of smiley faces painted on walls, bridges, or rocks close to where the bodies were discovered. A horrifying theory emerged that a network of killers, possibly even an organized crime ring, was abducting, torturing, and drowning these young men and marking their crimes with a mocking smiley face. Today, law enforcement agencies remain divided over what really happened. Some insist the deaths are just a string of unrelated tragedies tied to alcohol. Others believe the similarities are too striking to ignore, and the families of the victims say the official story doesn't add up, leaving a lingering terror that something very human, very cruel, may be stalking the riversides of American cities. It started back in 1992 when three young men, friends from high school, headed to a bar in Milwaukee for a night out. Their names were Jacob, Jeremy, and Antonio. The three drank heavily, got into a fight with another group of men, and then left to go to another bar. Security footage shows Jacob stumbling out alone around midnight. He was never seen alive again. A month later, his body turned up in a nearby lake, floating near a patch of graffiti that someone had scrawled on the shore. It read, "I fish for bodies." Around the same time, similar disappearances and macabre discoveries began to be reported in other cities, too many to mention here, stretching from San Diego to Boston. The similarities defied explanation. How could so many strong swimmers have accidentally drowned? How could they have been drinking heavily one night and ended up dead in the water the next, without anyone seeing or hearing anything? And why were smiley faces, hearts, and other symbols seemingly left at the scenes of some of the crimes? As more and more cases piled up, a theory began to form in the minds of retired homicide detective Dan Lasada and several of his peers. Someone, or some people, were abducting, torturing, and drowning these young men, leaving behind the smiley face calling card to taunt the authorities. Losada and others began reaching out to colleagues across the country, poring over case files and noticing more and more disturbing parallels. The victims were overwhelmingly young men between the ages of 18 and 30. Many were athletes or known to be strong swimmers. Some had been drinking heavily before they disappeared, but others were completely sober. Almost all of them had been at popular bars or beaches in the cities where they lived, and many had recently graduated or were attending college. The killers seemed to be targeting a specific type of young man, taking him from crowded places late at night and leaving his body in a spot of water nearby. But who were they, and why? Losada says he believes the killings are the work of a cult, specifically a group whose members rotate through different cities, abducting victims wherever they go. This explains why the crimes seem to be happening all over the place, and why there are similarities in the victims. Losada thinks the group may also be connected to a larger international criminal network involved in sex trafficking and other illicit activities. The smiley face symbol, he says, is a calling card left by the cult to taunt police and show that they are one step ahead. But not everyone is convinced. Many law enforcement officials insist the deaths are unconnected and point to the lack of physical evidence linking the cases. Others argue that the similarities are purely coincidental. Could this be a case of confirmation bias? Retired FBI agent Jennifer Coffin wonders, meaning that once investigators started looking for a pattern, they began to see one even where there isn't any. Coffin believes the killings are actually the work of copycats inspired by the original crime, which she says was almost certainly a traditional homicide, not the work of a cult. Still, in 2017, the FBI held a 2-day conference bringing together all of the various law enforcement agencies that have been investigating the cases. According to reports, attendees described the similarities among the cases as, quote, eye-opening, and agreed to continue sharing information and resources. But no one walked away convinced that a single horrific culprit is responsible. And so today, the question remains, what really happened? The families of the victims say the official story just doesn't add up. Young men who were entirely too healthy to accidentally drown, who were seen walking home alone at night and never made it to their front doors. Men who were found floating in the water with strange markings on their bodies and creepy graffiti nearby. All the pieces fit a horrifying theory, they say. But we may never know for sure because something very human, very cruel is lurking just beyond our sight.